This video brought to you in part by all the amazing things available on Amazon.com. The final season of Game of Thrones left many with a bad taste in their mouth, and certainly way more questions than answers. Hi everybody, I'm Savak, and these are some common sense questions for the series finale of Game of Thrones. Let's get started. Now, Jon passed Grey Worm on the street executing prisoners. So how is it that if he left him doing that and proceeded on his way to the Red Keep, how is it that Grey Worm beat him to the Red Keep? Like, the only way he could have done that is if while Jon was casually sauntering his way on up there, Grey Worm was running like a frickin' Kenyan up the other side. Like, and that doesn't look like a man who just ran a mile in full-on sprint. He should change his name to Grey Bolt. That's lame. Who was carrying around that massive-ass banner this whole time? Did you see that thing? It's not the type of object someone was just casually dragging around. Yeah? No? Okay, not funny. But seriously, from a logistical standpoint, that's the type of thing that would require some planning to transport. You don't just hand Old Glory to some random schmo to carry, you know? When was Edmure Tully freed? Last time we heard about him, Walder Frey was stating that he was locked up again. So when Arya went in and killed Walder, did she happen to know her uncle was in there, or did he just get lucky? I don't know. They never showed it. How much time is elapsing between scenes? Now, I know this is one of those things that was mentioned last season, particularly when Jaime seemingly warps down to the Reach and takes Highgarden. And I get it that it would have been a little cliche or faux pas, but the occasional 1 month later or something like that would have done wonders to fix this shit. What would have happened if the lords and ladies of Westeros elected Jon king? Would that have been possible? I know not everybody would have been on board, but are they voting by unanimous decision or by majority? And let's face it, Gendry at this point, he's really just going with the flow. He wasn't expecting to be made Lord, he was made Lord. Now Dany's dead, so I really don't think it matters. And Yara was only loyal to Dany because she was going to grant the Iron Islands their independence. Which still could be a thing. You know, Bran could elect to do that. Whatever, doesn't matter. But naturally, they'd want justice, but shit, have they met Jon Snow? His punishment is his continued unhappiness. The man's never happy. And for the second time, he had to kill the woman he loved, so whether he's north of the Wall, or serving as king, or whatever, he's still not going to be happy. If Sam is the Archmaester, then doesn't that mean he again would have to forego his claim to his family name and titles and shit? Remember that was one of the parallels between the Night's Watch and the Maesters. The fact that they abandon their family name, titles, and all that and devote wholly to the guild or whatever the fuck you call it. Not to mention that while Sam and Gilly may not have gotten married, he did knock her up. Presumably with the intention of naming the baby Jon Tarly if it's a boy. Where'd the Dothraki go? You don't really see them after Dany dies, which would make sense for them as a group because they don't just hang around when their leaders die, they follow the next strongest and move on. However, where'd they move on to? I heard at least one person state that maybe they went back to Essos. Yeah, okay. How? The problem with that is, the Dothraki aren't sailors. Okay? Ser Jorah tells us back in Season 1 that they fear any water their horses cannot drink. The only reason they went to Westeros in the first place was because they were following Dany. Now, Dany is dead, and that would mean that the Unsullied are their ride. But the Unsullied aren't going back to Essos. They're going to Naath. And it would not be advisable to bring the Dothraki to Naath. as the people of Noth are basically the exact opposite of the Dothraki, being that they are peaceful pacifists that don't believe in violence, which in turn is why they make such great targets for slavers. It's really sweet and sentimental that Grey Worm is attempting to keep his promise to Missandei by going back to her home country, but all that sugar and shit fades away when you realize that many of the Unsullied probably won't survive when they get there, as a number of them will likely be claimed by what's known as the butterfly fever, a disease carried by butterflies in Noth that the natives are immune to. Why did Jon get sent to the Night's Watch if the Unsullied were going to leave for Noth anyways? Again, I know we covered this a little bit like a second ago, but for real, just say that you're sending Jon to join the Watch. Let Yara and the Unsullied leave, tell Gendry to go to Storm's End and mind his own fucking business. Like, bro, don't you have to go learn how to be a lord or something anyways? Like, send them all away and then send Jon on his way with his family. Which brings me to the next question. Why is there still a Night's Watch? Like, did everyone forget the young wolf princess killed the big bad boogeyman, which is what the Night King was reduced to in this season, let's face it. And before that, our big baddie took down a huge section of the wall. The Free Folk are now allies, or at the very least cordial, so what exactly are the Night's Watch doing up there at this point? And subsequently, seeing as how they are as far north as the former Seven Kingdoms go, wouldn't that put them under the jurisdiction of the newly seceded North, and by extension Sansa? Meaning that Jon wouldn't really have to report if he didn't want to. Perhaps he just thought it would be cleaner that way. He may have been concerned that if he returned to Winterfell, that he would have been made king in the North again, but I'm not so sure. Those Northern lords were probably pretty flabbergasted about all of it. Jon bends the knee to the queen, and then he kills the queen. Damn, bro, you cold-blooded. Why hadn't Tormund left for Beyond the Wall already, considering it had been months since he told Jon he was going? Seriously, let's crunch some quick numbers. In Season 1, it's alluded to that it takes approximately a month to ride between King's Landing and Winterfell. So you figure Tormund tells Jon he's heading north. They say their goodbyes, Jon heads south. That takes about a month. The slaughter happens, Jon kills Dany, he gets locked up, and then they have to assemble the lords and ladies of Westeros. Assuming Sansa and Bran had to travel the farthest, that would at least add another month. Plus, however long it took Jon to get back to the Wall. Somewhere in the range of a couple weeks to a month. So why is it that no less than 2 months after stating that he's going north of the Wall, is Tormund still hanging out at Castle Black? There's no possible way he knew Jon was coming back. Jon didn't even know. For all intents and purposes, it had to have been assumed it would be a one-way trip. So Tormund, the fuck? Why was Arya floating around King's Landing if she wasn't going to kill anybody? She escaped on a random pale mare just so she could come back and give reaction shots? The fuck, dude? I came up with a pretty cool way that they could have killed Dany off. I thought this would be neat. This is just my idea. But imagine if after Jon tells Arya to meet him outside the city, he goes on to go confront Dany. And while they're having their heated discussion, Arya attempts to murk the Dragon Queen and Jon stops her, at least, at the last moment. And then during their ensuing struggle, Syrio Forel steps out of the shadows, stabs the shit out of Dany, and then rips his face off to reveal Jaqen H'ghar. And then he's like, a girl has something that belongs to the many-faced god, and she has to give up her bag of faces or whatever. I would have been satisfied. You can't tell me you wouldn't have enjoyed that. Which reminds me, why didn't Arya get to use her faceless men powers in the final season? Why even bother bringing her down to King's Landing? Like, I get the whole Arya Hound thing, and it was really sweet, and she called him by his name, and oh my god. But seriously, She doesn't don a face to kill someone or creep around or nothing? The true extent of her powers is never fully explained. My wife had a great question for me that I did not know how to answer. She asked if Arya could assume the face of a dragon, because when she dons anyone else's face, she assumes their body style and voice, etc. So why not? Shit, what if she had donned the face of a White Walker to creep up on the Night King? That's certainly a twist no one would have seen coming. So let me get this straight. They're just going to pick somebody after Bran dies? How do you follow him? Wouldn't it make more sense to have Bran select the next three-eyed raven and then make him or her king or queen? King? Women can be king too. I thought Brienne was sworn to Sansa. Remember the whole I pledge my sword to you until blah blah blah? Why the fuck is she now Lord Commander of the Kingsguard? Other than to fill in Jaime's page in that book. Also, who's holding down Tarth if she's the commander of the Kingsguard? Why, after his entire journey and character arc that saw him go from villain to redeemed hero / selfless sacrificial lamb, did Jaime simply revert back to the same exact dude he started as? I mean, come on, dude. He underwent incredible transformations, both literally and metaphorically. I heard an analysis talking about how he became the new Jaime when he lost his hand because that represented the death of the Kingslayer and the rebirth of Jaime the Good Man. And if you recall, he lost that hand defending Brienne, so the payoff was nice when they finally hooked up. But then in the very next episode, you send him back down, not to kill his sister, but to die with her. I get it, but I don't get it. I thought he had earned the right to keep living and do better by everyone. It would have been funny to see him go north of the wall with Jon at the end. Where the fuck is the Reed family? Seriously, dude, there is one living witness that can confirm Jon's parentage because he was actually physically there. And he never makes an appearance in the show outside of the flashback from 20 years prior. We meet his kids, who come to the aid of Bran to help him go become the Three-Eyed Raven. Afterwards, though Jojen is dead, and Mira is brokenhearted at the loss of both her brother and the cute Stark boy she had a crush on. Don't argue, you know she wanted some of that action. And if his dick worked, well, you know. Either way, she goes home after getting him to Winterfell, and then she's never seen again. And to be honest, I would have loved to have seen Greywater Watch, their floating swamp castle. The fact that it's a floating castle that's never in the same place, that's fucking cool. It's fucking cool. I know the Crannog men are reclusive and shit, but 20 years prior, Howland Reed was very involved in the politics and the wars of that time, but he recused himself from both completely in the modern era. Why? I heard a theory that was really cool that could explain it, and they could have even tied it in. Imagine if Mira did make an appearance at the gathering of the lords and ladies to represent her house, and then reveals that her father had been keeping secrets, including Jon's parentage, to which the group is like, yeah, we know, and that her mother is not who we all thought. She could have been like, my mother's actual name is, and then Bran cut her off the way that he likes to do and be like, Ashara Dane. You know, shock and awe. You know, that would have been cool. I would have been happy with it. Which reminds me, where are the Danes? We know what happened to Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. And we've been told that Ashara Dane committed suicide over a broken heart. But they had an older brother, who was the lord of their ancestral seat, Starfall, another location would have loved to have seen. And he had a son named Edric, Ned Dane, whom has a greater role in the books and even appears in some TV scenes fans would recognize. He's not in those scenes, but he's in those scenes in the books. But, scenes like the hands tourney at King's Landing in certain moments with the Brotherhood without banners, because in the books he's following Beric Dondarrion around. Now, why he was left out, we'll never know for sure, but it sure does suck, because the Danes are one of the coolest families with some of the coolest shit. A special sword made of the metal of a fallen star that must be earned by members of the family, and a castle built where the aforementioned star fell, hence the name, Starfall. That shit is dope, and they definitely deserved some screen time because of it. Why didn't we get to see more of Bran's powers or visions? I mean, the dude can see all things ever, with history reaching back thousands of years, yet we only get to see the Tower of Joy, the marriage of Rhaegar and Lyanna, and like split seconds of a bunch of other shit that presumably happened around the same time. Things we would have liked to have seen include the construction of the Wall, the construction of Winterfell, the Battle of the Trident, the scene of Ned's father and brother getting killed at King's Landing, a scene they filmed yet never showed. Any of them would have been nice. And I've heard from people who actually read the books, I'm not among them, that the show didn't even scratch the surface of what Bran could do. So that was kind of a waste. Thanks, guys. You've got this kid that's basically Neo in the Matrix, and he spends most of his post Three-Eyed Raven adventure sitting around being creepy. Oh yeah, and we did also get to see the creation of the Night King. All for Vayne. Anyways, doesn't fucking matter. He was unceremoniously killed by Arya. Where was the new small council gathered at the end? Because if you recall, Dany leveled the city, including large portions of the Red Keep. So, is that the Red Keep that they're in? Did they rebuild it? How long did that take? Did Bran help? Again, how much time is elapsing? And while we're talking about the small council, this isn't really a question, it's more of an explanation, because I know some of the more faithful fans were questioning why Ser Davos and Ser Bronn of the Blackwater were sitting on the council, and of course questioning why Ser Bronn was the Master of Coin. First and foremost, let me say that they will probably not end up in the same place at the end of the books. Their placement there was likely in fan service to pay homage to the brilliant performances of Jerome Flynn, Bronn, and Liam Cunningham, Ser Davos. And let's face it, we all loved seeing the two of them bantering together. Would have enjoyed more of them together, honestly. And as for Bronn being the Master of Coin, I think it was more to illustrate that Tyrion saw to it that Bronn became the wealthiest man in Westeros. He got Highgarden, he became Lord Paramount of the Reach, founded his own house, of which we never learned the name. That would have been a great place to reveal yet another shocking twist, but they did not. I mean, this season was all about missed opportunities. They could have done so much better. And I know it's been asked before, but how exactly did Cersei and Jaime end up so lightly buried in the rubble? From the way it was shot, it looked like they should have been buried down deep. Yet Tyrion goes to look for them, and it appears as though if they had jogged like 20 feet that way, they could have survived. So many wasted opportunities in this season. So many. And wait, what was Jon's purpose? Damn it, Melisandre says that the Lord of Light brings people back to serve particular purposes. Thoros of Myr was kept alive to keep bringing Beric Dondarrion back until he got to his last life, at which point Thoros died. Beric discovered his purpose was to save Arya so she could kill the Night King, after which he died. Melisandre's purpose was apparently to set a bunch of shit on fire during the battle for Winterfell, and guess what? After that, she died. Which brings us back to Jon. What was his purpose? Arguments could be made for a number of things that he did throughout the last couple of seasons, but if any of those were his actual purpose, why is he still alive? If he had been made king, then maybe it makes a bit more sense, but he wasn't. So I guess his purpose was to go north of the Wall and continue being unhappy until he dies of old age? Shame. Shame. Now, if you're like me, you don't have time to sit down and read all the books. But thankfully in this day and age, you don't have to. Sign up for a 30-day free trial of Audible.com and get 2 free books or something like that. Link in the description. Great job making it through this video. If you liked it, remember to like and subscribe so that you are the first to know when new ones drop. Had a question that I didn't touch on? Let me know in the comments, and of course, thanks for watching.